Alright folks, how you doing? This is Unit 6, Lesson 2, I Do. This is going to be about our context article, so we're going to get context about the current event of the hornet bees. In particular, we're going to talk a little bit about invasive species. Our learning goal, however, the skill we're trying to build, is going to be able to determine the connotative meaning of words used in a text. So, connotation is sort of, the feeling or the idea implied in something, right? So if you look at mascots, right? So, you look at something like the Warriors or the Bears, those are sort of strong characters. And so the connotation is that the teams are strong for those mascots, right? You don't often see the sunflowers or something like that, which is fine, right? If you want to be the sunflowers, be the sunflowers. That's cool. But normally for sports teams, you got to be strong, and dangerous. And so we use something that has a dangerous connotation. And we'll look at that a little bit more. Our first step, though, is to sort of understand context clues. Now, I'm sure you've heard of context clues before. I'm sure you've been taught this before, but it's always good to have a refresher. So context clues are the words and phrases used around an unfamiliar word that help you define that word and know its meaning. So if we come across in our reading a word we don't understand, a word we don't know, we have to kind of discover the meaning of that word. Because we can't always look it up in a dictionary, or we might find the wrong definition. And so how do we know what that word means? Just using the words around it. So let's practice that a little bit. Right here we have a text. The scientists conducting the research study had to go over all of the data. When she was done analyzing it, she made her conclusion. So I know, first I'm going to look at, how is this functioning? Well, it's a verb. It's an ing word. It's the scientist conducting, so it's the scientist doing something. And what are they doing? It looks like they're doing the research study, and they had to go over all the data. And when she was done analyzing it, she made her conclusion. Okay, when she was done, so she's definitely doing something, right? And so for me, the context clues, right, are things like, conducting. Conducting would be, I'm going to say, is doing. They're doing the research study. So it's so to conduct is to organize or direct something. I know this because of the use of word, because, let's see, it is a verb, and because the scientist was doing a research study, right? And so those ideas help me understand what conducting means, right? So if we look at another one, right? The scientist conducting the research study had to go over all of the data. When she was done analyzing it, she made her conclusion. Okay, so what does analyzing mean? And what are the context clues that help us understand that? So for me, right, analyzing, it's another verb. When she was done analyzing, so she was done doing something. What was she analyzing? The data. She was analyzing the data. She made her conclusion, so her conclusion came from the analysis, or from analyzing. What was she analyzing? The data of the research study. So analyzing, to analyze means to make sense or understand something. I know it means this because the scientist, drew a conclusion from analyzing data, right? And it is a verb again. So, part of speech, all those things, all those little clues tell us what analyzing means, okay? And so now that we can use context clues, we're going to move on to the next part, which is going to be the using actual connotation and understanding connotation, right? So this is what is meant by the use of the word rather than what is actually said. So sometimes, if we're sarcastic, there's a different connotation. So if I say something like, yeah, I had a lot of fun, right? So when I'm being sarcastic, did I actually have fun? No. So I said one thing, I had a lot of fun, but I meant the opposite because sarcastic. That was my connotation, right? So let's look at this, right? Sean had read books, played video games, and ran around outside with his little brother. He was tired of bending over backwards to entertain him. This is why Sean turned on the TV, gave him a snack, and then shuffled off to his own room for some peace and quiet. So first we're going to look at meaning. What does it mean to bend over backwards, right? So we want to look at the literal meaning. The literal meaning of bend over backwards would be to lean back and touch the ground. This would make you very tired, right? So that's the actual meaning of that word, but what's the connotation, right? The connotation. So I know that we're not actually bending over backwards, but he did all of these things for his little brother, right? All to entertain him, right? And so he did all this stuff to entertain him, and so it means to do a lot for someone else. I know this because Sean did so much for his little brother that it made him tired, right? And that's sort of like what it says. So we're trying to get at like the meaning of what it said, the intent or the implication. What do we infer from this, right? And that's what connotation is. Okay, so let's look at this one. Same thing. But now it's peace and quiet. This is why Sean turned on the TV, gave him a snack, and then shuffled off to his own room for some peace and quiet, right? So what's the meaning of that? The meaning of peace and quiet is to not be fighting, because that's what peace means, right? It's not fighting. And for everything to not make a lot of noise. I know this because those are the definitions of those words, right? That's literally just like what those words mean. So what's the connotation? Well, we know that he's tired, right? We already figured that out. He shuffled off, right? He gave a bunch of things to his brother to distract him, and he's on his own. So for me, the connotation is the connotation of peace and quiet is to be alone and doing your own thing, right? I know this because he gave his brother distractors and went to his own room by himself, right? So that's sort of like what the connotation, that's what's being implied by peace and quiet, right? Alright, so now that we know this, we're finished. Great job. We're going to go on to do your WeDo, and then you're going to turn in your, then you're going to go do your UDo, where you're going to do work like this again on your own, and then you do your exit ticket. So awesome job, guys. Folks, keep at it.